Mishra's diaspora criticism provides a comprehensive exploration of the growing realm of diaspora criticism. Rather than presenting an entirely novel theory, Mishra compiles existing theories to construct a metacritical examination of the field. In selecting which theories to include in the study, Mishra explains that he has favored those that are frequently referenced or consistently brought up in the critical discourse. Those works that form recurrent features or are mentioned with some regularity by those participating in the critical debate. While diaspora criticism can sometimes delve into metacritical intricacies and occasional pretentiousness, it remains an extensive and interdisciplinary metacritical endeavor. Despite the potential pitfalls of metacriticism, this study serves as a valuable and critical introduction to a diverse range of diaspora theorists, making it an indispensable resource for students delving into the study of diasporas. Mishra initiates his work with a prologue centered on an epistemological methodology, aiming to elucidate the intricate interplay among event, witness, and statement, ultimately culminating in the conceptualization of the generic event. Notably, Mishra employs an abundance of quotations and pays homage to prominent theorists, including Lyotard, Deleuze, Derrida, Nietzsche, Foucault, Barthes, and Wittgenstein, among others. These references saturate the initial 20 pages, dominated by dense quotations, wherein the theoretical foundation of Mishra's work occasionally appears as an exercise in name-dropping and self-congratulatory erudition. The text creates an ambience akin to an academic all-star dinner party, where individual voices risk being drowned out by the overwhelming brilliance. Mishra's mastery might have been more effective with fewer intellectual luminaries at the table. Mishra's prowess becomes evident in his identification of the three scenes of exemplification, separated by epistemic turns within the larger scene of the genre. The first scene, explored in the initial chapter, revolves around dual territoriality, an antiquated framework susceptible to debunking. This approach hinges on dichotomies and stable entities, such as homelands and hostlands, and dual movements categorized as voluntary and involuntary. Mishra effectively exposes the limitations of dual territoriality, revealing the complexities that escape its grasp. By examining the works of Connor, Safran, and Cohen, Mishra highlights the generalizations and exclusions inherent in dual territoriality, illustrating how factors like class, gender, education, religion, sexual preferences, accent, and language are systematically omitted. Ultimately, Mishra asserts that dual territoriality has exhausted its conceptual viability. Transitioning to the second scene of exemplification, Mishra introduces situational laterality. Here, theorists such as Gilroy, Mercer, and Hall take center stage. This chapter introduces greater complexity, incorporating essential factors like gender and class. Mishra contends that proponents of dual territoriality engage in an ideological ploy, representing diasporas as self-contained ethnic minorities, severed from a homeland, and situated in a host territory that ostensibly belongs to a dominant ethno-national entity. In contrast, Mishra applauds Hall for presenting a perspective on cultural identity that accommodates compositional unities, based on meaningful intersections, amid the turbulent currents of discontinuity, hybridity, and difference. Mishra positions dual territoriality theorists as rigid and conservative, contrasting them with situational laterality theorists, whom he portrays as more adaptable and inclusive. In embracing the plasticity of thought, Mishra ventures into the exploration of a potential new conceptual space forged by diasporas. Influenced by Babha's concept of the third space, Mishra proposes that the key lies in occupying the hyphen between a rock and a hard place, leading to the sub-heading the third space. Enter the border accompanied by the hyphen. Mishra defines the hyphen's function as marking the joint/rupture between spaces, devoid of its own space, yet indispensable to spatial categories. The border/hyphen breaks up structured unities and pre-given stabilities, while positing them on every side. Inhabiting the hyphen means being neither absolutely one thing nor another, but a multiplicity constituted in the line of fracture, which is also the line of suture. From this vantage point, one is never solely one thing or another, but altogether something else, a genuine third. Despite the nuanced consideration of the hyphen and situational laterality, Mishra demonstrates that the necessary solidarity of diasporic subjects cannot be assumed. Mishra's third scene, archival specificity, represents a more quantitative approach where he appears more comfortable. Here, he focuses on diasporists such as Vijay Mishra, Donna Argabacciati, Brent Hayes Edwards, Khalid Kosa, Martin Bormann, Kanishka Goonwarden, and Martin F. Manalansan IV. This chapter brings a breath of optimism to the field of diaspora theories, suggesting hope through archival specificity. Manalansan's work on queer Filipinos in New York City illustrates how archival specificity avoids generalizations, Western and Eurocentric assumptions, and imposed continuity. However, Mishra notes that the frameworks might not be universally applicable. Within the realm of seemingly negligible moments, Mishra finds that transnationalism, modernity, and globalization form the holy trinity of diaspora criticism, witnessing the social, political, and cultural repercussions felt across the planet due to purportedly a new economic regime. In the penultimate chapter, The Three Pillars of Diaspora Criticism, Mishra delves into the concepts of transnationalism, modernity, and globalization as powerful discourses, contributing to the elusive lore of diaspora criticism. He begins with an epistemological breakdown of transnationalism, proposing that diasporas mark the transnational moment by violating the imagined nation-state. Similarly, modernity possesses both horizontal and vertical dimensions, the former suggesting a chronological break between the past and the present instituted by the Industrial Revolution, and the latter indicating spatial breaks. 136. In these breaks, globalization, the third pillar, emerges. Under globalization, Mishra explores its economic implications, arguing that it may be responsible for creating an immobilized army of reserve labor, characteristic of the so-called Fourth World. He highlights that global economic practices can produce contrary and anomalous effects, a paradox noted by too few diasporists. Mishra contends that treating the global economy as an established category, rather than as an arena beset by controversies and contradictions, leaves the implied links between the social, the aesthetic, and the economic highly fraught and conjectural. 151. The overarching point of diaspora criticism appears to be that the complexities are too numerous for an overarching theoretical framework, categorical distinction, or even definitions to emerge. Arjun Upadhyay rightfully claims the final spotlight with his disjuncture theory, a title reflecting the absence of coherence that Mishra both applauds and critiques for its imaginative attempt to approach diasporas without fixed factors. Upadhyay delineates 5 segments of analysis that comprise this system of disjunctures: ethnoscapes, mediascapes, technoscapes, financescapes, and idioscapes. Mishra characterizes the interaction of these segments as a series of minimally intersecting eccentric circles, where each circle has its own constraints and motivations, but, on occasions, exerts a delimiting and constraining influence on the other circles. Upadhyay's theory is discontinuous, lacking a cause-effect basis, yet fluid in its dynamic, resembling a chaotic yet interconnected constellation. Although Mishra criticizes Upadhyay for practical limitations in his theory, he acknowledges him as one of the few analysts to have engaged with the socio-economic aspects of globalization in a profoundly complex and original fashion. Throughout the book, Mishra seeks a theory that is complex, imaginative, and original, recognizing that overly esoteric theories may lose practical applicability. In diaspora criticism, the focus remains on criticism rather than diaspora. Mishra incorporates few case studies, and those he includes are sporadically dispersed. These specific diasporas serve to highlight the inadequacies of existing diaspora theories. He successfully demonstrates that each individual diaspora is rich with complexities that must be considered. According to Mishra, diaspora criticism is at its strongest when taking stock of the varieties of historical continuity and rupture, and at its weakest when it merely functions as a conceptual field in its disinclination to address the hard economic issues of the day. He underscores the importance of an interdisciplinary approach to understanding diasporas, which simultaneously broadens and limits the diaspora genre.